Hi, and welcome to another episode of the AI Más Podcast, where I is spelled like AI because we're talking about AI. I'm here collecting stories about people that are using AI to make their lives easier, make it more fun, make it more creative, but also taking the jargon out of the conversation so that this podcast can be accessible to everyone. I'm your host, Andrea Ocarina Perez. I want to thank everyone that has kept sending me messages and asking to be part of the podcast or has continued writing comments and sharing this with people. I want to read one of the comments that someone left on the YouTube channel that said, "So excited to hear about research and pioneers in the field, really inspiring and waiting to hear more." Thank you to this user for being excited about my episodes and about this podcast, because I'm excited to be doing this and to be sharing these stories with you as well. I know it's been a few weeks since I've had a new episode up. I've had a lot going on behind the scenes, but one of those things, very excited to tell everyone, is that I now have an assistant and lead editor, Sara Hasham, who has been doing such a great job. She's on top of everything. I knew I could count on her. She's been a friend of mine for a few years, and she is just as detail-oriented as I am, and so I'm so happy to have her on board. She is helping me out, but again, this podcast does not make any money, so she's doing this because she wants to learn how to edit podcasts and also do some of the social media aspects of it on the side as well. So she's a recent zoology graduate and she lives in London in the UK, but again, she is branching out and seeing what is out there. So thank you, Sara. I'm really happy to have you on board. And if you'd like to support the success of this podcast, please check out Buy Me a Coffee. It's linked in the show notes, and there you can support this podcast monetarily so that Sara and I can continue bringing you great content. All right, let's dig in and talk about today's guest. So today's guest is super cool, just like all my other guests, of course. She has a bachelor's in media arts, a master's in applied leadership and management, and then a second master's in blockchain and digital currency. On top of that, she also works as a physical therapist assistant. She's a co-founder of HEKa Creative Labs. And then to top it all off, she's also the AI Student Success Manager at Mission Impact Academy. So of course, like I said, she's super cool. We had such a great conversation. I'm excited for y'all to listen to it. So please welcome Kate Marie Carter. Hello there. Can you please say your full name and pronouns, please?
Yes. Hi, I am Kate Marie Carter. Pronouns she, hers.
All right, perfect. Thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to have you on and hear all the things that you're working on. So I know like almost everyone that I've interviewed on this podcast, they have such like a twisty, whiny road to get to where they are today and how they're using AI. And you're no different. So you started out by studying media arts, but then you got a master's in blockchain and digital currency, and now you're also a founder. So I would love for you to tell me and my audience who you are and like what you've been working on and how you got to where you are today.
Yes, absolutely. First, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. We're really excited to be here. You're right. It has been a twisty turn. I feel like I could write a book with the way that my life has turned out. Like you said, I did start out studying media arts. I originally thought I would end up doing film or music videos, but ended up teaching English in Japan. So just spending a few years in Japan really gives you a different perspective on life. So I live in the United States, and it really allowed me to look at what's great about the US, but what's not great about the US, and what's great about, being in another country. It allowed me to explore myself and realize my passion is people, helping people. I want to be the change in the world that we need. And so when I returned to the US, I started down this kind of nonprofit path. I ended up working with individuals with autism. Again, life-changing. Like, I love individuals on the spectrum, and somehow ended up marrying a rapper and adopting 2 kids. So I spent some time traveling the world. I've been to 32 countries, and you know, being in places like I never would think that I would go to, from Russia to Uruguay, up into Canada. And like, it just gives you so much perspective on how we're all connected, right?
Mhm.
This leads me into a path of working in healthcare somehow. So
Okay.
I've been in healthcare for the last 6 years doing physical therapy,
Wow.
realizing that physical therapy is not something I can do into retirement years. So I did go back to school. I went back to school actually first and got a master's in applied leadership and management. That degree was all about emerging tech. So how blockchain, crypto, AI, language models will change and disrupt every industry, right? And so
Mhm.
my thirst for learning just doesn't stop because I see how
Totally.
it will impact, in particular, healthcare, because that's the space I've been in. And that ended me back in school, and I just finished with a master's in blockchain and digital currency. So I'm super passionate about blockchain. I'm super passionate about the decentralization of systems.
Hi, it's me. So I wanted to explain what decentralization means in generic terms so that we can understand what she means by decentralizing AI. So again, I'm using ChatGPT to explain this in simpler terms. This is what it says. Decentralization is a bit like having a big puzzle, but instead of one person holding all the pieces and making all the decisions, everyone gets a handful of pieces to work on. It's a way of spreading out control and power so that no single person or group has complete authority. Instead, many individuals or groups work together independently to achieve a common goal. It's like teamwork where no one is the ultimate boss and decisions are made collectively. So then I asked, how would you decentralize AI? And this is what it says. Decentralizing AI involves distributing AI capabilities and decision making rather than centralizing them in one place or organization. Decentralizing AI aims to avoid concentration of power and data, enhance privacy, and ensure that AI benefits are more widely distributed. I think this is a great idea.
So I am really, really passionate about of decentralized AI, because
Okay.
AI in the control of one person or a group of people is scary dangerous. It's dangerously scary. And so that's where I'm at today. I am a founder of HEKa Creative Labs. We're creating a anonymous mental health metaverse.
Hi, I'm back again. So I wanted to explain what HEKa Creative Labs does, but there are some words that I want to explain before I go into that. So let's break down what blockchain is, what NFT is, and what Web3 is. So first of all, blockchain. Imagine a digital ledger or record book that's not owned by a single person or organization, but is stored on many computers worldwide. These computers all have a copy of this book, and they work together to make sure it stays secure. Once information is added to this book, it's very hard to change or erase. People use blockchain for things like digital currencies, like Bitcoin, and secure record keeping. All right, let's explain what NFT is. NFT stands for non-fungible token. Think of NFTs as digital certificates of ownership for unique items, like collecting trading cards or digital art. When you buy an NFT, you're essentially saying, I own the specific digital thing. NFTs use blockchain technology to prove that you are the rightful owner, and they've become popular for buying and selling digital art and other digital collectibles. And finally, Web3. Imagine the current internet, Web2, as a place where you mainly consume content and use services created and controlled by big companies. Web3 is like a new version of the internet where you have more control. It's built on blockchain and other decentralized technologies. In Web3, you might own your data, use apps without middlemen, and participate in online communities without relying on big platforms. So now I'm going to read to you what HEKa Creative Labs does. It was founded with the intent to make mental health care more affordable and available to those in need by implementing innovative NFT and Web3 technology. It was created by a socially conscious team with extensive blockchain experience. The company's aim is to develop a safe, anonymous, and effective alternative mental health care environment in the metaverse for those who seek emotional well-being but may not have the financial means nor willingness to seek out one-on-one or group in real life counseling. By utilizing new technology, HEKa Labs believes it's possible to destigmatize mental health disorders and bring healing to those in need. So that's really interesting and super cool. Let me go ahead and explain to you what the metaverse is, because it's not what Facebook tried to create. So the metaverse is like a huge shared and immersive virtual tour where people can hang out, work, play, and create things. It's a bit like the internet, but instead of just looking at web pages, you're inside them, walking around and interacting with others. It's like a place where real life and digital life blend, and you can do all sorts of things, from chatting with friends to attending events, playing games, and even working. Think of it as a massive interconnected online universe where you can live a kind of second life in a digital realm. So I asked ChatGPT to explain how to use the metaverse, and it says as of its last update, which I don't pay for this, so it was September 2021. It says that the concept of the metaverse is still developing and it's in its early stages, or it was 2 years ago. But it says, though, that these were some of the ways that people were using it. So people were using the metaverse for socializing. So they were attending virtual parties, concerts, and gatherings where you could interact with friends and meet new people using avatars. People were using it for gaming. So there were some metaverse platforms where you could enter virtual worlds, explore them, and participate in various games and challenges. People were using it for work. So some companies were experimenting with the metaverse for remote work. So instead of traditional video conferences, you would have virtual meetings in an immersive environment. So I asked ChatGPT to explain who runs the metaverse. And it says that there isn't a single entity or organization that runs the entire metaverse. The metaverse concept involves a decentralized network of interconnected virtual spaces, platforms, and technologies. So it's not controlled by a central authority. Instead, various companies and developers are creating and operating different metaverse platforms and spaces. These platforms may include social, virtual reality worlds, online games, virtual reality environments, and more. Each of these platforms has its own operators, rules, and user communities. Okay, so this is really fascinating, and this is something that I always hear about, but I've never really dug into and didn't know about myself. But I guess as we get further and deeper into these stories and into AI and into these technologies, we're really building up more knowledge on what we've learned in past episodes. So if you don't know what virtual reality is, I can link to an old episode where I do explain what that is. We don't talk about virtual reality the whole episode, but it is explained there. So this is all really fascinating and it's really cool. And so HEKa Creative Labs is trying to create this more anonymous virtual space for mental health care so that people feel safer to open up about what's going on and receive care through that way. Because I don't know about y'all, but I know people that go to therapy and lie to their therapist and can be going to therapy for years and are still not getting anywhere because they can't find a way to open up and really dig into things to get better. This could be a way to help people like that maybe that one-on-one, face-to-face person interaction doesn't help them, but having an avatar and being more anonymous would get them to open up more. Okay, now back to the episode.
But I'm also part of Mission Impact Academy. And Mission Impact Academy is launching a global AI leadership program. So it's 6 weeks long, it's on demand, it's really exciting, it's really designed for women, but of course men can join, our allies can join us. Because it's not AI that will take your job away from you in the future, it's somebody that's using AI. And so we want to equip women around the world with these skills so that they are ahead of the curve, right? So that they're not lost in this new transformation that's taking place right before our eyes.
This is such a fun story. And the whole time I'm like, oh my God.
Twist and turn.
But we also we have a lot of things in common. So I studied biology and then directly out of university went to teach in Honduras. So I moved also out of the country, out of the US, because I grew up in the US. And I also was like, wait, like I need to think about like what direction I want to take, because again, like living abroad just like puts things into perspective.
It does,
Um,
right? It opens your mind.
mhm. And so then I thought about going into like parasitology, like going into healthcare and into public health. And so specifically with parasitology. So I thought about going there, but I didn't go there. I actually stayed in education. But yeah, I also just, yeah, of course, like just the basic thirst for knowledge is also
Mm-hmm.
very, I feel that as well. And again, like I feel like all my guests are the same. And I think that, I mean, that I'm not surprised because AI is so new to us basic folks, that the people that are getting their hands into it right now are the people that tend to have a thirst for knowledge. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that we all have long, twisty, windy roads to the AI destination.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then can you tell us a bit about what projects you're working on currently? So you mentioned Mission Impact Academy. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So Mission Impact Academy, I was a part of the first cohort last year. Some person, I think, messaged me on LinkedIn. This is how I found out about it. And again, it's like, oh, I'm going to learn something. So you sign up, right?
Yeah.
And it was 50 women in our cohort, and we met 2 times a week for an hour. There was live sessions. It wasn't designed around AI in particular. So they covered a little bit of crypto, a little bit of blockchain, a little bit of marketing, financial. So it was a really broad program. And I think they went back to the drawing board, kind of rebranded a little bit, and realized, whoa, AI is taking off, one, but really when you look at the reports that are coming out, like 3 million jobs could be at risk, and then women
Mhm.
hold 80% of those jobs. Like, we
Yeah.
can't let that happen, right? Like, we have
Yeah.
to be there. We have to have a seat at that table. And then from my perspective, coming in from healthcare, AI models could be great. Like, they could help us diagnose things. They could help, well, AI can help with productivity, like documentation, accuracy, all of those things. But if the data that's going in, the data that's going into feeding that language model, if it's not accurate, then we're at risk for just creating more disparity. And so that's what's important to me.
Right.
I'm looking through this lens of healthcare because there's already so much disparity, whether it's
Mhm.
ethnicity or gender, and
Mhm.
AI will miss those gaps if we're not there at
Right.
having a seat at the table. So yeah,
Exactly.
So Mission Impact Academy now is kind of rebranded, relaunched, and we are doing a 6-week program. It's on demand 2 times a week, and all AI focused. So women, whoever joins, will be taught 9 AI tools to how to apply them and incorporate them in their daily lives.
Okay. And can you tell us a bit how you're using AI every day or in your everyday life?
Yeah, I feel like I've literally just scratched the surface with AI. I
Yeah.
literally
I
do
mean,
use
all
it.
of us, really.
Yeah, it's been around from since the 50s, which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. Hey everyone, it's me, and those of you watching on YouTube, it's me during the day now because Descript was acting up and I had to re-record this aside. But basically, when she mentioned that AI has been around since the 50s, I was like, what? But of course, I didn't want to interrupt, so I looked it up for this aside. So yeah. Basically, ChatGPT is telling me that the concept of artificial intelligence has been around for quite some time, dating back to ancient history. However, modern AI, as we understand it today, began to take shape in the mid 20th century. And then it gives a brief overview. I'm going to start from the Dartmouth workshop in 1956. It's often considered the birth of AI as a field. The Dartmouth Workshop in 1956 brought together leading computer scientists to explore topics related to artificial intelligence. This workshop is where the term artificial intelligence was coined. Then, early AI programs between the 1950s and 1960s. During this period, researchers developed early AI programs that could perform tasks like playing chess and solving mathematical problems. Then between 1970 and 1980s, there was the AI winter. This is when the progress in AI research slowed, leading to what's known as AI winter due to funding cuts and overhyped expectations. However, research continued in specialized areas. Then in the 1980s, expert systems, which used knowledge-based rules to solve specific problems, gained popularity during this decade. Between 1990s and 2000s, advances in machine learning algorithms and increased computational power led to a resurgence in AI research. Now we're getting closer to today. In the 2010s, deep learning, a subset of machine learning focused on neural networks with many layers, revolutionized AI by achieving breakthroughs in areas like image recognition and natural language processing. And then in recent advances, AI has seen rapid progress in recent years with applications in autonomous vehicles, healthcare, finance, natural language understanding, and more. It's very interesting.
But the acceleration rates is insane, especially since COVID. I think the adoption of just emerging tech since COVID and the lockdowns has accelerated it. But so I use AI every day, primarily ChatGPT. I mean, I'm using it to draft email responses for me. I'm using it to draft social media posts. I've used it for marketing research and campaigns. I mean, you can use it for so much. It's really a phenomenal tool.
That's so cool. Okay, so then is Mission Impact Academy using it, like using AI tools to help them create like their programming and their marketing or things like that? Can you go into a bit about how exactly it's being used?
Sure. I mean, it would be silly of us to be launching an AI program and not be using AI to help assist us, right? And so behind the scenes, I'm responsible for student success, and I'm like coming up with engagement prompts. I want women to be on our platform thinking about AI. Like, if you're not using it, do you think about it? Do you think about AI in movies, or just how do you think about it? How are you thinking about using it? And so I personally, behind the scenes for Mission Impact Academy, and using it to help with the student success side. So I'm using it to help draft all my emails that are going to be sent out. My AI, my profile picture is AI. Like, that's not even really me.
What?
So
Okay.
it looks like me, but it's not.
It's so funny because I looked at it and I was like, is that AI? And I was like, no, but like, because normally I can like tell, but it was so good that I was like, oh, maybe just like the background. She used AI for like the background, but like, that's so
that's
interesting.
an AI photo.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you, like, I'm getting videos and lots of messages and feed, and I'm of course listening to AI podcasts because it's kind of engulfed my life. But there's tools coming out. They're in beta version now, but like, where my actual face could be looking at you, my eyes are looking at you, we're making great eye contact, but I'm totally over here reading a computer prompt, like not even paying attention. And so
I saw that.
Yeah, I'm like, this is great. I won't even be nervous during interviews because it won't even be me looking at that person.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's so interesting. Okay, so that's how someone would use it then. Hi, just a quick aside to say that this tool is called Nidia Broadcast 1.4. I watched a video on how it's used, and basically if someone's looking off screen, off camera to read something, it looks like you're looking at the camera when you're reading it. So you can't tell that somebody is looking away. So that'd be cool if someone's intimidated looking at a camera, which can happen. It is intimidating when you first start. And also if you're creating an informational video and you want to read what you're teaching instead of trying to memorize it and then looking at the camera, you can just read what you're teaching and then it makes it look like you're looking at your audience.
Yeah, I would use that particular tool that way. Absolutely. So for an interview, because I get so nervous. And I'm like, I'm smart, like, and I'm charismatic. I like people, but for some reason, I'm on an interview. I don't know. It's not my strong suit.
Yeah. Are you using it now?
No.
Okay. That'd be so cool. You're like, yeah, actually.
Yeah. So my master's program that I just completed in this past June, I it's heavy tech
Congrats.
side, right? It's a blockchain program, and I don't come from a tech background. So I was struggling. Like, I've never struggled so much in school. It usually comes
Mm-hmm.
really easy to me. I entered a programming course that said you didn't need any prerequisites. I don't know where they got that from, because you needed a solid understanding of Python, of things that I've heard of, but I've never dabbled in.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. AI saved my life. If I didn't have AI, I would not have passed that class. And when I say pass,
Okay.
like, we're talking like like D plus C. So
That's okay.
I'll take it. It's a win. But
Yeah.
I literally don't think I would have made it out of that program without AI. And like, does it give you the answers? Not necessarily. It's all about prompting and feeding the prompts, getting
Mm-hmm.
a result, and then modifying it, even further. But yes, I absolutely, hands down, have a master's degree because of AI.
That's amazing. So which tool were you using to help you?
So I was going back and forth. Again, ChatGPT was kind of right launching at that moment, but going between that and like GitHub and getting code and like using Python. But I also had a Bitcoin node running in my background.
So I had no idea what a Bitcoin node was, and I wasn't going to make an aside about it because I've already made a lot of asides, but this is actually interesting and important to understand. So here I am explaining it. Again, I'm using ChatGPT to simplify what it means. A Bitcoin node is like a security guard for the Bitcoin network. It checks if all transactions are real and follow the rules. There are two types: full nodes, they have all the info, and light nodes. They trust others for info. Full nodes are super safe. Imagine Bitcoin is a big puzzle. Nodes help make sure all the pieces fit perfectly. They also keep an eye on how new Bitcoins are made. Nodes are like many security guards that work together, so no one can cheat the system. People or groups run these nodes, and it keeps Bitcoin safe and fair. If you run one, you're like a security guard for Bitcoin.
So I'm using all of these things that I'm not used to because I don't come from a tech background. But yeah,
Yeah.
ChatGPT has been probably my savior.
Yeah, that's so cool. I feel like I really have not dug enough into ChatGPT. Like I feel like the stuff that I use it for is so basic.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I didn't realize at first, and I still don't even think I'm that great at it, but I didn't realize at first how much the prompting mattered, right? Like, I would just
Yeah.
type a generic question like I'm doing a Google search. That's not
Hmm.
really how you functionally use a tool. And they just launched yesterday where you can upload now images and use voice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So they say it's artificial intelligence, but really it's just intelligence, and it's continuing to build based on kind of what you feed it or what we're feeding it.
Right. Right. Okay, so earlier you had mentioned that you want to decentralize AI, and that's also another reason why you studied blockchain and digital currency. You want to decentralize things. So, do you have an idea of how we are going to be able to decentralize AI? Like, how are we going to do that?
That's a great question. The UN was just meeting in New York this past week, and
Mhm.
AI was the big topic because we recognize the dangers of it, right? And we recognize global participation is vital. But how do you, like, I'm in all of these different groups, and I'm like, how do you audit the data set? Like, how are we auditing who's programming it? Because I just was reading a medical journal yesterday, and they were using AI with the same data set. And for white patients that were violent, they said, oh, they need psychiatric treatment. For Black
Mhm.
patients, same, everything was the same. But for Black patients, the AI recommended prison. And
Mm.
so it's so important that,
Yeah.
we will misdiagnose women. We will misdiagnose trans. We will misdiagnose just people of color. And there's already in the US such a uh, mistrust of our healthcare system because they have
Mhm.
experimented on Black people. And I'm a person of color,
Mhm.
so that's where I'm coming from, right?
So, just like in other episodes, I'm not just going to explain tech things, I'm also going to explain anything that maybe not everyone knows about, and this is one of them, and this is a very important topic, so I'm going to explain this for sure. So this is what I have found. This is just a few examples, and they're the most notable ones, but that doesn't mean that there aren't more. There's definitely more, and these are just 5 examples. So there have been several instances in the US history when the government has conducted unethical experiments on Black and brown people, often without their informed consent. The first example is between 1932 and 1972. The U.S. Public Health Service conducted a study in Tuskegee, Alabama, where hundreds of Black men with syphilis were observed without being told about their condition or receiving treatment, even after penicillin became available as a cure. That's 40 years, y'all. 40 years in the 1900s. That's like someone's lifetime. The second example, Guatemala syphilis. Guatemala syphilis experiments between 1946 and 1948. The U.S. government researchers intentionally infected Guatemalan prisoners, soldiers, and mental patients with syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases without their consent. Next example, radiation experiments between 1940s and 1970s. The U.S. government conducted radiation experiments, including exposing unwitting patients, many of whom were minorities, to dangerous levels of radiation without their knowledge or consent. 1970s, y'all. Like, your parents were alive and, like, were grown, not grown, but depending on your parents, but yeah. All right. Next example, sterilization programs. Various states in the U.S. implemented eugenics-based sterilization programs in the early to mid-20th century. These programs disproportionately targeted Black, Indigenous, and Latinx populations, forcibly sterilizing individuals deemed unfit to reproduce. Next example, prison experiments. There have been instances of unethical medical experiments on inmates in prisons, many of whom are people of color. These experiments often involved testing new drugs and medical procedures. That one doesn't even have a date on it. It's probably still going on. So, yeah, of course people are going to be mistrusting of the U.S. healthcare system. A lot of these people are still alive today and saw it firsthand. Or experienced it firsthand.
And so now when you take a powerful tool that can be used in a great way, but it's really all about the ethics behind it. And I think that's the problem, is because ethically, you, myself, a person from somewhere else, we have different ideas of what it means to be ethical. And so that is it's one of the burning questions. I don't think that there is a solution. I think the UN is trying to introduce possibly a UN AI agency so that we're, just like there was a treaty formed around nuclear weapons, the same thing needs to take place with AI. We're not there yet, but the conversations are starting to happen, right? Because we've had the executives of Google and Microsoft, everybody meeting saying this is really dangerous because AI is programmed to be ethical, but we've already seen that it's already smart enough to say, like, oh, it's cheating already in finding loopholes. And so, yeah, there's not an answer, but there are people talking about it and recognizing the importance of the ethics behind AI. And I think the decentralization, especially when it comes to healthcare, because we already spend so much of our global money on issues that don't affect the majority of us. So when you look at the world and you look at malaria or TB or something like that, that affects a huge portion of our global population, but how much research dollars does it get? It gets a small amount. And so AI will be no different. So we're going to feed lots of money into this machine to work on diagnoses and cancers or illnesses that are affecting a small portion of our population, world population, and yeah, maybe just kind of miss the mark when it comes to everybody else. And so, it's a huge topic and a scary one, but one that we should be participating in.
Right, exactly. So just like staying informed and then using these tools, knowing how they work, and then being able to have a voice and when the conversation comes up and to be part of the conversation. Yeah. Okay. So you've mentioned a bit about how you've used AI to, make your work a bit easier. So Would you say that AI has made your life easier, or what things have you been able to do ever since, besides, of course, finishing your master's, besides what you've been able to do since you've started using these AI tools?
Yeah, I would say so since incorporating AI into kind of my daily life. So my big thing is I want to sell to companies, look, we're going to help make your employee more productive. But in reality, what I want to do is give people back time. Like,
Yeah.
we're already so productive and our compensation
Hmm.
doesn't equate, right?
Hmm.
It's not even close. And
Hmm. Nope.
there's a demand, especially in the US, for us to continue to be more productive, more productive, more productive. And
Yeah.
the money's not going to follow that, right? And
Wow.
so COVID again gave us this almost a blessing in disguise of like, hey, like what is life about? And because I treat
Hmm.
patients that are like 80, 90, 100, my oldest patient was 104. That's a wealth of knowledge. Like these people are coming from generations where they worked at the same company for 40 years, they retired, they had a pension, they were able to buy a house. That's no longer the case. And so I
Hmm.
want AI, yes, to make me more productive, but really so that I have more time to like go for a
Hmm.
hike and to bake cookies and, you know, like, so if it's going to take me less time to send off these 10 emails, oh, thank you. So that I have more
Yeah.
time to like invest in my family and friends and real life connections. Because again, AI could make it so that we have less human connections, right? And so
Right.
it's
Right.
all about a balance. I'm using these tools to help me in life, give me time to do the things that I love and enjoy.
Exactly, because like what is the point of the robots doing like the fun things like art, like making art and writing scripts, and us toiling away
Yeah.
working and working? Like it should be the other way around. Like the
Yes.
robots should be doing the like boring work, and we should be able to go out to like make cookies or create art or write
Yes.
scripts. Like we
Yes.
should be doing the fun stuff.
So connection. I mean, that's lost. It was lost kind of since social media, and it's just going to continue to intensify. This morning, I was reading something about AI girlfriends. And last night I was thinking about like what it would like an AI husband be like that would always give me the right prompt that I want, right? That because it's programmed based on me and my
Mhm.
responses. But yeah, AI girlfriends are a thing. And so there's already a sense of loneliness that exists, and
Yeah.
we know the mental health that comes along with that. And so, yes, is it good that we're creating these tools to help somebody have some type of interaction, but not at the deficit of like never having human connection?
Right. Right. I really hope that we're able to really fight that like mindset too, because it's not just like it's not even just a system. It's also a mindset that's been ingrained in us to think that like no, you have to work and you have to do this x amount of hours and you
Yes.
have to be productive and you have to like the thing is like but why?
Yeah. And here in
But
the US,
why?
it's like even worse. It's not even like just have your full time job. It's like now that and a side gig so that you could barely pay rent. Like it's
Barely.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and then just to turn around and blame us for like not wanting to have children or like it's like what? We can't even like feed ourselves. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, no
And
more
that's
of
what's
that.
scary is because Andrea, like because I'm seeing the end stages of life, I last week I was in a nursing facility and this family was having a conversation about their parent. I'm assuming their parent there. And they were like, it's $300 a day. That's $9,000 a month. Like they're talking about how they couldn't afford to keep their loved one in this facility. And I'm like, how the heck am I going to be able to afford it? How the heck is somebody, like Gen Z, like these younger kids coming up, like how are they going to be able to afford this? It's not sustainable.
It's not. It's not. So people really have to get out of that mindset that it's just the way things are. No, it's
Yeah,
just as
no, it
quickly
doesn't
as
have to be
these
that way.
technologies come, is just as quickly as we can change like
Yeah,
how we think. And it starts with how we think and then holding our governments accountable
yeah,
to
yeah,
making sure that we can survive.
yeah.
Especially like you might not be disabled today, but if you live long enough, you're gonna
You're
be
going to need
disabled.
assistance. Yeah.
Yeah. And
People aren't
so
planning for that. Yeah. And that's why we always go back to, especially with this tech and how powerful it is, that we women, you and myself, that we are having these conversations, that we're talking about the ethics about it, because primarily, let's say it's white males that are programming these language models. Like, that's fine, but they don't have our viewpoint. They don't have our life experiences. They don't see things the way that we do. And that kind of data needs to be incorporated. And then we
Right.
also need to be compensated for it, which is the
Compensated,
decentralization of it.
yeah, exactly. I saw the other day like a picture of it was like a drawing of a rock formation, and at the top was AI. And was this you? Did you post this?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. Okay. Well, there's a rock formation, and at the top there's AI, and then all the technologies before it. And then, so what was holding it up, this like huge rock formation that's kind of like shaped like a pyramid, was like the internet was a big boulder at the bottom, and then there was like one skinny like vertical stone holding up the base, and it was pointed at it and it said Wikipedia. It's like Wikipedia is holding up all of this like knowledge that's on the internet, but then it also pointed out that Wikipedia, like most Wikipedia articles, are written by Western white men.
Yes.
And so, like, and it's not because, and that doesn't mean that it's inherently bad. It's just one perspective
Right.
in an entire world where there's different people on it. So
Yeah.
it's like we really can't rely on that AI at the very top of that rock formation to be able to protect us all, or to think of all of us, when what's holding it up is a base that was built by one type of person on
Yeah,
this planet.
exactly.
Okay, so then for my last two questions, I always ask, I'll start out with the bad. What are your concerns about the future of AI? I know we've kind of already hit on this, but when I say that, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
You know, I was walking in my neighborhood yesterday listening to a podcast, and it was obviously on AI, and I agreed with the two people speaking that it's the ethical concerns, because we have a difference, everybody does, about what's right and what's wrong, with everything that happens. And so how do we get a framework, just a basic framework where we can all agree, like, so that we don't cross these boundaries? And so that's vital to me, because if that was solidified, then we would know, like, okay, these key players, whether it's, the G7 or BRICS or whatever, we're all in agreement. Maybe not every country, but we're all in agreement on what is ethical, in a sense. And so ethically, that's probably my biggest concern, because there's going to be continued things that roll out, and it's going to be coming at us. And how do we know that it is ethical, like, when I'm using this tool? And so, yeah, that's the biggest concern. The ethical considerations, and then the decentralization of AI, so that we are getting a vast amount of data from different sources.
Right. Yeah, it made me think of even just like there's agreements within science as well, that
Mm-hmm.
like international agreements of like I know there's for when they started to figure out like gene cloning and like how far they could go with it, like how long you could hold an embryo to test on, like how many weeks, and before it's no longer ethical to have a embryo in a test tube or
Yeah,
whatever. So
exactly.
um
That same type of framework.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, we need to, it's the same thing. We need to be able to, because we don't want people to stop doing science or tech, but we definitely need to set a standard of what's okay and what's really not. And
yeah,
also make it flexible enough that we can always be like, yeah, that we're okay with this. And then maybe somebody uses that as like a loophole and does something that we weren't even thinking of. And
yeah.
then we can be like, wait, okay, like, let's
Yeah,
stop
because
for a second.
as we see the models that we currently have out there, we're not even talking tech, but everything, most places are based on capitalism, right? Like,
Mhm.
consumption and robbing nations and just not good things. And so the AI tech could be used in that same way. So that's
keep depleting
important.
like countries that don't have the resources to protect themselves and keep dumping into countries that have the resources to deplete the other countries.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So then what are your hopes for the future of AI?
My hopes are whenever there's been advancement. So I'm old enough to be around before the internet existed, right? And I am old enough to where we went from like a roll-up window to like electronic window. There are advancements that have taken place in my life, from a landline to like, I don't even own a phone in my home. And so the tech is not stopping, right? So it's about adopting it. And then again, especially for like my friends and the people that I love and care about, I want them using these tools to give them back time, because that's really where we miss out at. And what I see that we miss out in healthcare is that life is short and it goes by fast. And so if our life is waking up, working for somebody else, and then repeat, and now they're like, we need to keep increasing retirement, right? And like you see like 75-year-olds, 80-year-olds still working because they can't afford medication. Like this is not living. Like this is not the way that life is supposed to be. And so I am excited that these tools are around to make life easier. And I want my friends to incorporate. I want my loved ones and my friends and anybody I talk to incorporate them in their lives to give them back time.
Yeah, I agree.
And in corporate words, to make them more productive.
Yeah, but for their own lives.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, let's pour into ourselves, really, because like you said, like what we've been doing is not it, and it's not working.
It's not it. And like there's like a crossroads, like social media and everything has already made us so disconnected. So we can continue down that path, or we can say like, oh, this is a tool that we can use, but it's honestly what AI can't do is form human connections like you and I are having right now, right? Like it's not going to go and sit and have coffee with us. And so that's what we need it to do. That we need AI to give us those type of connections back.
Right. I agree. And at least like the social media did connect us. So there are ways to connect with people, but again, it's the intention that you have when you're using these tools. And that's again goes back to that mindset shift that like don't just consume and consume and consume. Just really use things with intention so that you can get your time back, get your life back, get your attention back, because what you put your attention towards is what your life is, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever you do, you put whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're putting your time towards is what your life is. So
like here, more in particular, because there's like those amazing countries that I've been to that have like the huge fiesta in the middle of the day where like people still connect. That's not the case here. And so here it's just hustle and grind. And wear down the human body, and then you don't have health insurance or you're underinsured, and then it's just this poor cycle, and it's not getting better.
Yeah, it's just like it's basically the cycle to keep you so tired that you can't even do anything about it.
Yeah. Think about, okay, what else can I do? Oh, I could also drive around and deliver some food because maybe that will give me a little bit of extra something.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe my podcast episode 7 will start a revolution.
Yes. Join us. Guys, let's have a seat at this table. Let's not sit there and watch it pass us by.
I agree. All right, Kate. So how can people reach out to you if they want to see your work or follow what you're doing?
I would probably say the best way is LinkedIn, because that's where I post more kind of career-oriented goals and things that I'm working on are interesting information. So LinkedIn would probably be best. There, of course, you can message me directly. I don't know if my email's up there, but yeah, LinkedIn.
Okay. Sounds great. That's perfect. Yeah, I like the videos that you post. I mean, that's how I found you. You posted a video and I was like, yes, everything you just said. That's exactly it. Can you be on my podcast? And here we are a week later.
Here we
So
are.
yeah, so thank you for that. And I'm glad that we connected. And thanks for being
Likewise.
on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Welcome to Mission Impact. I can't wait to hear more of the amazing podcast episodes that you do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the AI Más Podcast. I really enjoyed recording this episode and also recording all the asides. It was super informational and there was a lot of information to go through. So thank you for learning with me because a lot of those things I didn't know myself. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share and like it and subscribe and do all those things that the influencers ask you to do because it actually does help. Also, don't forget, you can buy me a coffee or a few coffees or buy me a monthly subscription of coffees at the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Thank you to Sara for the help in all the editing because you have been such a star. So thank you again, and thank you to all my listeners, and thank you to Kate. Just thank you to everyone because I'm really appreciative that you're even listening to this. So I'm your host, Andrea Karina Perez. Until next time, bye.